Big breaking news at this hour at 9:30 p.m. on India Tonight, which is on the World Bank's much-awaited report on ease of doing business. Speech after speech, conference after conference, the government talks about the ease of doing business. Have we improved in the last 1 year? Unfortunately not, because the World Bank has released its annual ranking of countries in ease of doing business. And even as India was hoping for better ranking, that's not the case. Our ranking is exactly what it was at the start of last year. So there's been no improvement in our ranking as far as ease of doing business is concerned. On specifics, with the exception of getting electricity, that's probably the only case where there's been an improvement in our ranking. On most other parameters on the basis of which this ranking is given, there's either been no improvement or there's been a decline. This comes as a shock for many in the industry, and try to understand what really happened. Why have our rankings not improved despite all this massive marketing blitzkrieg by the government? Let's take it across to two people who are stakeholders. Ramesh Abhishek, Secretary in the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, and Shaktikanta Das, Department of Economic Affairs Secretary. Both of them joining us live and exclusive right here on India Tonight. Mr. Abhishek, I'll start off with you because DIPP is the nodal department for this reform. Really, tell us, why do you think have we not been able to improve our overall rank at all this year, despite all the hype surrounding the reforms done by this government?
See, on getting electricity connection, there has been a considerable improvement this year. Last year we were 70 and now we are 26, so there is a jump of 44. Actually, last 2 years we have improved by 111 ranks in getting electricity connection. In enforcement of contract also we have improved 6 points. In distance to frontier also, which measures your proximity to the best practices adopted by various countries, again we have improved substantially. So these are some of the positives that are there, but our overall rank has improved only by 1, considering the revised rankings. The reason is that we had done about 12 reforms which have not been recognized this year because of various methodological issues. They have recognized 4 reforms that we have done, and the other 12, some of them like implementation of bankruptcy insolvency code will be done only after the implementation by December. And GST of course will be implemented next year in April, so then it will get reflected. So there are about 10 reforms which we are hoping will be recognized. We engaged with the bank, but for various reasons, methodological otherwise, they have not accepted during the current year.
That's a point I buy, that a lot may kick in next year, but because the Prime Minister has spoken about, the top 50, it must surely be disappointing for bureaucrats like yourself who've tried to make a difference. Mr. Das, in the Finance Ministry, how disappointed are you, and what do you attribute to the fact that we haven't really made much headway in ranking this year?
Well, let me mention 2 aspects. Number 1, there is an element of disappointment. We thought we would get a higher ranking. That did not happen, so there is an element of disappointment. And there is also an element of concern because many reforms we have undertaken. And if you look at our list of reforms, it is unparalleled, and today no other country in the world has undertaken the kind of reforms which India has undertaken over the last 2 years. So in that sense, we thought we deserved a better ranking. And also the reforms, I think the World Bank expects the reforms to take certain deep roots. Now there again, the point is we feel that once a reform has been undertaken, take the case of the bankruptcy and the insolvency law which has been brought into force. We thought that once the legislation has been undertaken, we should get some weightage, but World Bank thinks otherwise. They would like the whole implementation process to take shape. Now there is a time frame for implementation. It may sometimes certain legislations take 1 year to be the impact to be fully felt in the ground. So there is an element of disappointment. There is also an element of concern with the methodology. But having said that, let me say that the World Bank is a reputed institution and we have a long relationship with the World Bank. We respect their verdict. It's a motivation for us to continue with the process of reforms and go forward. The second aspect I would like to mention is that there are many positives and positive observations which the World Bank report has made. There is a whole box item on the kind of reforms India has undertaken, and there is recognition that India has adopted the reform agenda as a kind of transformative agenda for the country. So that recognition is there. There are many positive aspects to the report, and that is something which we also should keep in mind, and these are matters which are matters of satisfaction.
You know, I specifically want to point out your attention, Mr. Das, to say the bankruptcy, overseas trade, or for that matter, construction permits, we've actually slipped in rank. Do you believe there is a need to reassess the reforms we've undertaken? There's a certain trajectory of reforms that we've taken. Is it time perhaps to step back, review, and reassess what we've done so far?
We have to go through the full report. We have to go through the full report, analyze the basis of their conclusions, and if we feel that certain steps need to be taken at our end, we will definitely take those steps. So we will go through the report, and we are going through the report in detail.
Oh, this is a shocker, whichever way you look at it. Mr. Abhishek, do you think another reason for abysmal performance is that only Delhi and Mumbai cities are considered for this ranking, whereas other states are doing a lot more work? So now reforms is not just restricted to the two cities, but in a lot of other states, whether it's Madhya Pradesh, whether it's Gujarat, whether it's even Andhra Pradesh. Do you think that could be one of the reasons why the ranking hasn't improved?
See, so far as reforms in other states are concerned, a number of states are doing absolutely fantastic work in setting up single window platforms for giving clearances and approvals, in construction permit, in setting up mechanism for inspections which are risk based, and substantially easing the kind of pressures that are various businesses face. But this is a methodology of World Bank that they only look at Mumbai and Delhi cities. So this is a methodological issue, and this is their decision, but it does not reflect the kind of massive reforms being done in other states, which is reflected in the state rankings which we are doing in the public platform. So I think this is a very important matter, that the reforms are to be done to improve the business climate in our country, and doing business report is a part of that. It's an important part, but then there are so many other elements to improving the ease of doing business.
Right. Mr. Das, it seems that things have turned for the worse, even in protecting minority interest and access to credit. What do you think needs to be done to improve in these two parameters, according to you?
I think, look at recently the doing business, the report which the World Economic Forum came out with. Now, there is a disconnect between the World Bank report and the World Economic Forum report. Particularly on investor protection, minority investor protection, we have got higher ranking in the World Economic Forum report. I think if I remember correctly, we are ranked number 8 among all the countries with regard to investor protection. Now, one international body gives us 8th rank, World Bank doesn't do so. So there is disconnect between two kinds of reports. But leaving that nitty-gritties out, let us recognize that number of steps have been taken. India has done a lot, and we will continue to do even more in the coming months and years.
Right. Mr. Abhishek, let's come to you right now. Access to credit is one of the major bases for starting and running a successful business, and our rank has been falling on that parameter. I mean, if you actually see for this year, we've worsened in access to credit. What exactly can the government do to improve this? I know it's a larger banking problem. It's a problem of the cost of credit as well, but what else can the government do? Can there be out-of-box solutions to this at all?
See, so far as this World Bank report is concerned, we have two registries for security interest on movable assets. One under the MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, one under the SARSAI Act. Now what we are planning to do in the coming year is one of the 10 reforms that we have planned to do is to merge the two registries. It will give much better idea to those who are giving credit about the credit worthiness of the individual or the firm. So I think that is something that we have planned to do, and we are hoping that this will be achieved next year.
So, Mr. Dash, the government has outlined GST and bankruptcy law as game-changing reforms. By when do we see the impact of some of this in the ease of doing business rankings? I mean, I know you said that World Bank would like to see things reach fruition, but these are big marquee reforms that one has undertaken.
You see, when the next year's report is prepared by the World Bank, by that time the GST should have been fully implemented, and it will be fully implemented as as it has been planned. The bankruptcy law also would have been fully implemented. In fact, the bankruptcy and insolvency code will be fully implemented in the next 2 to 3 months. So these major economic reforms, these major economic legislations which have been undertaking, they would have been fully implemented by the time we reach the next year's review of next year's analysis of the World Bank. And certainly these two, apart from various other points, they will contribute substantially to improving the ranking of India with regard to ease of doing business.
Right, Mr. Abhishek, I'll let you have the last word. The Prime Minister set an ambitious target of reaching the top 50 by next year. Do you think that's even doable now?
See, if you see the kind of very major changes that have been done, for example, construction permit reforms. Now we have online systems in Delhi and Mumbai, whereby all the systems are online, common application format, no physical touch points. Now since April this year it was implemented in Delhi, and from May in Mumbai. But then World Bank looks at private sector feedback which are received till 31st May. So this could not get reflected this year, but this is bound to get reflected next year. We had given detailed logs to the World Bank that people are getting permits in Delhi in 14 days. But this dramatic reform is bound to get reflected next year. Once the insolvency and bankruptcy code gets implemented by December this year, this will reflect extremely well on the rankings on that particular score. Similarly, paying taxes. Our EPFO reforms could not be accepted because of methodological issues. Our GST will bring about a lot of improvement. Our e-courts that we are planning to do for commercial cases, that will bring a lot of improvement. And we are going to have a single form now called SPICE by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which will replace all the forms. So single form, mandatory form for incorporation of the company, name reservation, and allotment of the director identification number. So these are the kind of reforms which will help us make significant improvement in our rankings next year.
All right, Mr. Ramesh Abhishek and Mr. Shaktikanta Das, two of the best performing bureaucrats here in New Delhi, and two people who have their skin in the game as far as that ease of doing business list is concerned. Thank you very much for joining us this evening right here on India Tonight. We wish you the very best for the list next year, and we hopefully will notch up a few ranks there.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.